At some point tonight, you might step outside, tilt your head back, and stop moving for longer than you meant to. Nothing about the sky changed. It's the same handful of lights it always is, arranged the same way it was last week, last year, longer than that. And yet something in you seems to go quiet, the way a room goes quiet when someone important walks in. You're not thinking about anything specific. You're just looking. And somehow that's enough to make the rest of the day feel very far away. The emails, the errands, the small worries that felt urgent 5 minutes ago. It's a strange kind of stillness, the kind that doesn't ask anything of you, and doesn't explain itself either. Most nights, most people never actually do this. Our evenings are lit from below now. Screens, streetlights, the soft glow of 100 windows, and the sky above simply gets crowded out, not on purpose, just by default. There's a quiet irony worth sitting with here. We can pull up a photograph of a galaxy 14 million light-years away in about 2 seconds, on a screen the size of our palm. And still, most of us haven't looked up at the actual sky in longer than we'd probably like to admit. Maybe that's the strange trade we've made without quite noticing. Endless images of the universe, and less of the sky itself. It's easy to feel closer to space than any generation before us, while somehow standing further away from the actual experience of it. Not every night under the stars leaves a mark. Most don't, but some do. A specific night, a specific field, a conversation that happened to take place under an unusually clear sky. Years later, it's not the conversation you necessarily remember first. It's the sky. Nobody plans for a particular night to become the one they keep. It seems to get chosen for us by something quieter than decision-making. And the stars, oddly, seem to be very good at attaching themselves to the nights that mattered. Long before cities existed to block it out, the night sky was simply part of daily life, unavoidable and apparently impossible to ignore. Across many early cultures, patterns in the stars were used to mark seasons, guide journeys, and tell stories passed down without being written anywhere, carried instead in memory, voice to voice, generation to generation. It's worth noticing that the stars in any given constellation are rarely anywhere near each other in actual space, some many times farther from each other than they are from us. People drew lines between them anyway, inventing shapes out of scattered light, as if meaning wanted to be their whether or not it technically was. Nobody back then had instruments to explain what a star actually was. But the noticing came first, long before the explaining did. The simple, repeated act of looking up and sensing that whatever was up there mattered, even without the words to say exactly why. Here's something that tends to sit strangely once you actually think about it. Most of the light reaching your eyes right now left its source a long time ago. Some of it left years before you were born. Some of it left before recorded history began. What's reaching your eyes is a kind of postcard mailed a very long time ago. The star that sent it has likely changed a great deal since, quietly living out stages of its life you'll never see reflected in that single point of light. Which means looking at the night sky isn't quite like looking at anything else. It might be the closest thing to time travel available to an ordinary person on an ordinary night. No equipment required, just a clear sky and a willingness to look up. In a strange way, you're never really looking at the present. You're looking at a long list of different pasts, arriving all at once, layered on top of each other, pretending to be a single moment. There's another difference worth noticing, one that has less to do with time and more to do with noise. Almost everything else competing for our attention responds to us. A notification, a message, a screen that reacts the instant we touch it. The sky does none of that. It simply sits there, indifferent in the gentlest possible sense, asking nothing and answering nothing. That may be part of the relief people describe. For a few minutes, there's nothing to reply to, nothing waiting on you. Just a very old, very quiet thing that was never going to talk back in the first place. There's a particular kind of quiet that only seems to arrive outdoors at night, away from anything with a screen. Not the absence of sound exactly. Crickets, wind, distant traffic can all still be there. More the absence of anything asking something of you. The sky simply doesn't require a response, and there can be a quiet, physical relief in being somewhere that doesn't. So why does looking up seem to affect people the way it does? One possibility has to do with scale. For most of the day, We measure ourselves against things our own size, deadlines, conversations, traffic. The night sky doesn't offer anything to measure yourself against in the usual way. It's simply too large. And there's something almost restful in that, oddly enough, being reminded, gently, that you're not actually required to be the center of everything. Another possibility is quieter, and has less to do with the mind than the body. People often describe something physical happening in moments like this. A slower breath, a loosened set of shoulders, the sense of taking up less space than usual, in a way that doesn't feel uncomfortable. This is simply how many people describe the experience, not a claim about what's happening inside any one person in particular. There's also the shared nature of it. Nearly every person who has ever lived has, at some point, looked up at roughly the same sky you're looking at now. Different centuries, different beliefs, different reasons for looking, but the same handful of stars doing the same slow work on whoever happened to be watching. It's likely part of what makes it feel different from other kinds of stillness. Not just personal, something closer to shared, a very old, very quiet form of company. It's rarely a solitary thing, either, even when you're the only person standing there. Someone taught you, at some point, to recognize at least one shape up there, a certain cluster, a certain line of stars someone once pointed out and said, "Look, that one." And it's usually still there, waiting, whenever you look up again. It could be part of what returns with the sky, to not just old light, but the memory of whoever first pointed it out to you. So maybe the next clear night you get, you let yourself stand outside a little longer than you planned to. Not to solve anything, not even to think about anything in particular, just to notice the specific strangeness of it, that you're standing on a moving piece of rock, looking at old light, feeling small in a way that somehow doesn't feel bad. There's a quiet kind of comfort folded into that smallness, if you let there be. Whatever felt enormous earlier today, it's still real, still yours to deal with. But for a few minutes, under a sky that old, it might not feel quite as loud. Perhaps that's the whole point of a sky like this. Not to explain anything, just to remind you, every so often, that there was always something larger going on above you, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to look up and notice it again. Thanks for spending this time with me. There's more where this came from.